It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.
Hey everyone, how's it going? It is almost the 4th of July already. We are close. It is July 2nd, 2021. UFOs are real. They're making new Star Wars stuff. There's going to be fireworks probably going off in my backyard that you may not be able to hear. That will scare me and make me jump, and it will be weird. So, yeah. But I hope everybody's having a pretty good end of the week and ready for a cool weekend. And I hope my audio is not a one channel today for no reason at all. Who knows why that happened, but it did. So up front, before we get into the Bad Batch stuff and how deep we go into it, it kind of depends on you guys. So it's a pretty easy episode. But the comedy is when I did Star Wars Santa's survey last night, I tried to kind of take some wild kind of stances on it, but I also didn't truly know. But not only did I rock it, I was the very, very bottom. Failure. Look at me right there. Failure. So, yeah, I did not guess anything right in that episode. Also, on a side note, not a big collecting focus over here, but Sen has a kind of a cool thing about the new Hondo figure. Almost makes me want to go spend my cash on Hondo and Naka vintage style toys, because that does spark my interest. But at the same time, I'm just trying to go out of sight, out of mind, trying to kind of take it there. You can love something without having to consume everything about it, even though it has utterly consumed my life. But I do want to get one. I think I will. That said, last night's Bad Batch was both, I'm very mixed on it. More mixed than ever. Number one, the good. That planet, that was the prettiest episode of the Bad Batch, and maybe the prettiest episode of the Clone Wars, if we want to pretend like it's the same show. It's not far off, so I kind of get it. But that looked great. Like, everything jumped up in that episode. Now, did it jump up because of the lack of story and what was there? I have a theory that this episode is a classic Clone Wars connective 4-parter, 3-parter, whatever kind of episode. It was like, is it important that this bureaucrat that we never, we don't really are, we're not invested in him, that we spend all of this time on him and that environment? So I could analyze the episode titles to death, but I decided not to. We know Ryloth is coming in a few episodes, so maybe it's not that. But if it is, I have a feeling that they invested a lot in this episode to set up the exposition. And if that is true, it's an investment in the next two. That's how it went with Clone Wars. Every time a new Clone Wars arc would start, everyone on the internet would lose it about how bland or boring or how nothing happened. And then the next 2 to 3 episodes would rock because of that investment in time. It's just like a movie. It's the exposition, and then it gets moving. There was one glaring continuity error as far as I'm concerned. I hope I am wrong, but we actually rewinded it to look, and it was when the droid who's with the ruler is there and the Imperial officer is outside talking. Like, the droid starts to sneak away. They literally are like, look at the droid sneaking away. And then it goes to the next shot with the Imperial officer and the droid standing there with her. And then you go to the next shot, the droid's down the street. Big error. Says to me that things changed late in that scene, and it was either an error or there wasn't enough time, and maybe we will see that painted out. Maybe when we go to watch it next week or something like that, that error will be fixed. Unless I'm totally wrong, but when I looked at the scene, there could have been two droids, right? She could have had one, he could have had one, whatever, right? But I only saw that one droid, and that droid was so featured in the episode, it didn't seem like the kind of thing where you would sporadically throw in a bunch of them and be like, oh, this one's unique, but they're all the same at the same time. So when you guys watch it again, if you didn't notice it, let me know if it's as egregious as I feel that it was, or if it's just in my head. But that one was just like, when I catch something like that the first time I see it, like, to me, it says it was huge, but it aired so late. I didn't spend all day, or all night on the internet, like, seeing what people were saying. I did comment on it though, because I was just like, did anyone else see this? And someone else thought it was like, what is it, from a book or something? I'm like, no, it's like literally like continuity error and placement, as in the character shouldn't be in the shot. Reminds me of if you guys were Ninja Turtle kids, man, by like the second, third season of Ninja Turtles, when they just started like cranking it out, it was like, here's 5 episodes, and then like, here's 20, and then here's 60 or something ridiculous. You started, like, if you knew the voices, you would start to notice that the voices were on the wrong characters. And like, as a little, 9-year-old nerd or whatever, it broke the show for me. But that's a bit extreme. I admit it. Anyways, yeah. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought about last night's episode. I thought for sure when Omega was separated from her friends, as she likes to say, she was going to say that, but I don't think she said it one time. And that, I also wrote it on the Santa poll, like what else do you want to say? And I was like, she's going to say friends, and it's going to be adorable. She didn't say it though. So in my mind, that part of the episode was a loss. I will say, I don't think it was, I guess if it does become a multi-part episode, tracking her is important to where she'll be in the next episodes when she goes on the mission with them. We have to, and the way the episode ended, she's playing a chess match to win a space chess, which I did like those moments though. Those were good moments. I just don't know if they were super important, unless we want to look at it as they're building up Omega to have a tactical mind. Is she going to be Queen's Gambit of Star Wars? Maybe, because it kind of seems like they were taking us there, and that's, I think, interesting, because my prediction at first was that she was going to be the little Luke Skywalker that Lucas envisioned. I thought they were taking it that way, but now obviously it doesn't seem so obvious if that's the way it's going. So what do we got? We have Boba Fett's little sister, and I think she's going to become a rebel. That's where I think it's going. And I think that they might juxtapose those like things together. On Star Wars Santa's show, we talked about how it would be really rad, and Santa's theory, that she'll be in that white proto Boba armor and how cool that would look. And I agree there. At the same time, powerful juxtaposition of characters if you have one who is fighting for the Rebel Alliance while the other is fighting to make a profit off of inequality in the galaxy thanks to imperialism, right? So you could kind of play that a few different ways. But I will probably still watch this episode again just because it looks so good. Like, the environments were just stellar. I mean, that was maybe the first time I've seen a world where I was like, wow, this competes with Naboo. And it sort of used that same kind of pastel look. Like, when you look at the crowd shots, the way that the costumes were color coded and oriented on the screen, it was almost like a Monet painting or something. I'm no art expert in that field, but it kind of had that kind of vibe going, and I liked it a lot. I thought it was pretty good. It also, if you saw the video I made, I don't think anybody really watched it, but I did a video on Dinotopia and the inspiration of Dinotopia on Star Wars, and boy, did those the colors in those crowds really pull on the Dinotopia strings. And I also have a follow-up video to that about an actor from Dinotopia that was going to probably be the star of Underworld had it happened. But and he was ironically in the Underworld movie in a very small tiny role. Red Rum says he's first. You are, or Re-Rum, not Red Rum. I got Shining on the brain. I'm a genius, right? And I decided, hey kids, want to see a scary movie? Let's watch The Shining. Don't know what I was thinking as a parent on that one. My kid's not a big fan of going into the restroom because of that lady. And then well, we had already gone down that rabbit hole, and then came the sequel. Hey kids, want to see a scary movie? So and then it made it worse. Not a good idea. Pretty much no. John Crow and Demon Accords. Happy Friday to you, Mr. Santa. Thanks for coming in, by the way. Geez, how's it going? I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything about what you said in that one part of your message, so I will leave that out and let you put it in the chat if you want to. But if you don't want to, then just don't. But Deez wrote in and said, I had a comment and question based on yesterday's Patty Jenkins discussion. You touched on it yesterday that Jenkins' dad was a fighter pilot. So I think she'll take real care in putting her heart into the project. Yeah, I think that sounds like it's a good connection, right? Wonder Woman 84 was a slog of a movie. I'll say that again. But there was one scene with the invisible jet that was probably a highlight of the flick. Okay, so while I'm loving this message and the thought you put into it, I am both super, super happy that there is something really redeemable in it, and also kind of annoyed that I feel like I'm gonna have to watch the whole movie now. I feel like I should watch it anyway. I mean, I really should. I should know what makes Patty Jenkins films work and not work as much when they don't. But he goes on to say, all that being said, this is Patty Jenkins after all. So do you think Chris Pine is announced as a cast member? They really seem to enjoy working together. Loving the return of the show. Looking forward to this new era. That's a really good good question, dude. It really is, because Chris Pine and Patty Jenkins do seem to like to work together. I mean, he was in Star Trek. People oftentimes like to pit Star Trek against Star Wars as if it's, two different things. William Shatner's come after me on Twitter. That's happened because that's the world that I live in, which is ridiculous. I am both. I wish my grandparents were alive to know that TJ Hooker was trash talking me on the internet over some people in Galaxy's Edge, a photo that I took eating at Galaxy's Edge dressed in Star Trek uniforms. I thought it was funny, but you could tell that he thinks it's funny too, but a part of him is deeply like about things. He and Carrie Fisher used to go at it too. But that was maybe the coolest day I could remember on Twitter. You know what I mean? If you're gonna get into like a lighthearted like thing, it's with William Shatner. That's something to remember. I'm proud of that moment. That said, Star Trek people, in terms of production, completely Star Wars, they've always been intertwined, completely. And we've even seen where like George Takei has voiced characters in Clone Wars. And it's almost, I think, if you're a creative in Star Wars, it's not like you have a Star Trek aversion. Like I could see in certain ways, if they were like truly competing franchises, you might have this kind of like, oh, we don't want to shine a light on this other thing. But I think Star Wars and Star Trek long ago figured out that they're not competing for the same piece of the pie. If only people in fandom can do that, right? But so I could definitely see that dude being in a Star Wars project. In fact, I would say maybe the only reason why he wasn't was because Abrams had already worked with him twice. That could be something that goes against it for the Patty Jenkins thing, right? There does come a point where, somebody's worked with you a few times. You're like, well, are we dating? Like, are you my work wife? I don't. So that happens sometimes, but I don't think that would happen here. It seems like it's possible, and he seems to be pretty up on what's going on with it and interested in it because he has commented on it before. So, yeah, I wouldn't hate that though. Not not a crazy Chris Pine fan, but also not a detractor. I saw one time on the old YouTube.com that fans of Chris Pine called themselves Pine Nuts. The Pine Nuts coming into the Star Wars fandom? Well, that's couldn't get any worse. But I actually like that name. I think it's pretty hilarious. Will the Jedi play a big part in Acolyte? Yeah, that is the question. We continually are asking that one right there. That's come up a lot of times. Have you asked that one before, Johannes? I'm not sure. It's okay if you have, but I have a feeling that if they will, because I don't know if you really have the Force and you have like this like dark side power stuff explored, and then you just don't comment on the Jedi. You don't. Everything almost has to stand on its own too. Like Acolyte still has to work as the very first thing you've ever seen. If you've never seen anything from Star Wars and you get a Disney Plus subscription and you log in and you just go right to Acolyte, boom, put that on, it has to work. And I think that's one of the things that the creator has been saying over the last weeks in these interviews. Like, yes, I'm a gay woman. Yes, and this could be capped really hilariously by me or about me, but yeah, but I have hired people who are right for the job. I mean, that's the subtext of everything. Of I have this perspective, but I've hired people who don't have my perspective, and I don't think it means that she's hiring Ron Swanson for the, you know what I mean, from Parks and Rec, for just to be clear. But it means that I think she's hiring people who approach story and have different interests than hers, because as fans, which she clearly is, you run the risk of losing the actual general audience. And there's like times like I think the PR with Star Wars, it loses completely what the general audience or what the general fan is, and it focuses on this rabid hardcore insanity, and it thinks that the general fans care about that, and it doesn't also associate that there are like different levels of fans, because it's kind of culty. You'll see people going like, whatever it takes, just as long as if you like one thing, you're a fan. And it's like, yeah, but it's not the same, is it? It's definitely, and I don't agree with people that are like, you don't know every little piece of minutia about Star Wars, therefore you are a lesser fan than this person. No, having an encyclopedic knowledge of Star Wars or of anything doesn't make you make your heart more fonder of something. It just means you retain that more, or you had more time to spend, whatever. But with that said, there are different levels of fandom. And I don't think that they've ever really been able to see the difference and to really fill those out very well. And I think the Filoni Favreau success is probably opening up their eyes to that to some extent. But at the same time, they were already such like Filoni. They're already fawning over Filoni well before all of this. So it makes me wonder. I hope that they're getting it though. I also hope that they're getting that Marvel is entirely different. Jeremy Conrad is not in the chat yet, is he? Because he knows everything about that stuff more than I by far. I don't know that much about it. I am watching Loki though, loving it actually. Think I'm loving Loki. It feels like Doctor Who with the money it should get every episode. That's not a slight on Doctor Who. I dig a lot of Doctor Who. Way not caught up on it, but I plan to be one of these days. That said, yeah, the Jedi, I think they have to. I don't think you can have this juxtaposition without the other side of it, right? I mean, it would be weird. It's possible, but it would be weird. And with as big of a fan as Leslie is, you would think she would be dying to write about Jedi during that time, maybe to even help define the Jedi of that time. Because as cool as, or maybe not as cool, depending on your point of view, but as the current book series is about the High Republic, books are read by a couple 100,000 people at best, usually, and one episode of the show will be seen by millions. So either way you put it, it ends up being defined by the interpretation of that stuff on screen. And so I hope that it's a really fresh take on that like prequel era kind of thing, because that's what I kind of feel like this is, you know. How's it going, Kane? Happy Friday from jolly old England. Man, I know it's like lame because it's not 1995 anymore, obviously, but it's like it always blows my mind that we are all in this weird little community at the same time. Happy Friday, Mr. Nolan. Star Wars Sense, I totally agree with the quality of animation was amazing. It was. Dell, how's it going, dude? Hello there. Hey, oh, I see what you did. You got me. Bespin. Wow, I'm so glad to see Bespin here. One of these days, I hope if he's ever up for it, he can do video or just audio if he wants to, but he's always welcome to come on. I would love to chat with him. And all of the years of doing this, he is the only person I have a strange camaraderie with who knows the pain, the suffering, and the anguish. No, I think he's had probably a much better experience than I have. But I'll much respect to the work of Bespin. And if you don't follow him on Instagram, it is literally the only reason I go on Instagram in 2021, to be honest with you. And it's always quality stuff. I think he's always super forthright with what he knows and what he doesn't know. Like I always say on the show, I try to anyway. Here's what I know and here's what I think. And I think Bespin always does that in his own way. It's always very evident to me. And the quality of the reporting, it is unparalleled. Dell says, "Oh no, editing errors. I didn't notice. All new nerds pointed it out." Yeah, it was like right away. I was just like, "What?" Like it was such a big one. Like when it's a really tiny thing, you know, I could see like it gets pushed to the wayside and you just got to kind of like roll with it. That one was so big because like they were like literally like, look at this character, look at what they're doing. Like the direction said that to me, and then it was there, and I was like, ugh. Hey Jay, how's it going? You basically have my name and my son's name put together. You're like a Jason and Son Voltron. Dell says, Jason, Santa, Bespin, Nolan, Kane, Johanna, this. Everyone's here. Everyone's here today. Oh, Throntalk's here. She's Phasma. Oh, man. No. Well, I guess I wouldn't it be funny if Django had a daughter and she was taller than them. That would, I mean, I guess it could happen. You know, she could be a basketball dunker. Dale says she'll hide out learning about the Mandalorians and all their different cultures, and she'll figure out how to bring them all together on New Mandalore. That definitely could happen. The thing about it is, like, we have that connection now with Django and the Mandalorians that we learned at the end of season 2, right? So there is a connection there. But when we see him in Attack of the Clones, we know he's not part of that Death Watch culty kind of thing, right? He wasn't there. He takes his helmet off and stuff like that. But well, so did they actually. The Death Watch did. So I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, I guess I assume that the Death Watch became the cult that Din Djarin was rescued by, and so maybe they got stricter and more crazy as the war went on. I don't know, but definitely interested in seeing how that plays out. And like somebody like her, it's so kind of fascinating because she could totally be invested more in clone culture, if you will, than Mandalorian culture. And she looks at these clones like they're rock stars. So, like how is she going to take all of this, and where is all of this going to start to make sense to her as she grows up? Because I don't really have a strong sense of how Filoni classically, and he's not the only one making the show, but classically Filoni, I don't know how he feels or takes in the idea of children and family and stuff like that, because I don't think, I could be wrong, and maybe I shouldn't even talk about it, but I don't think he has children. Lucas's kids were adopted until recently. He had his first biological child recently, but Lucas was, I think, very much on the, you make your family kind of train. So hard to say. Hard to say how Filoni's going to make that go. And then, yeah. Oh, Bearded Trio. How's it going? Love everything that you do. I mean, truly, I think this is the Bearded Trio hits the fandom that I like, or the angle I like, correctly. I mean, and all of the postings and the photos and stuff, fantastic. But yeah, Dinotopia had Lee Evans in it, British comedian. Yeah, it's actually like not bad. They're great books, and if you just love art, and this isn't Bearded obviously knows, but if you love art, it's worth just looking at for the art. But George Lucas saw this. George Lucas read those books to his kids, and they ended up kind of settling privately over the issue. But he was pretty upset about it for a time in '99, and I think it's fair enough. But at the same time, it's one of those things where like everyone's okay with Lucas borrowing from the pop culture of the past, but where's the line? How old is old to where it's like not okay? And when you like look at what Lucas was borrowing from now, that's almost like if he was borrowing from Star Wars. It's like the time difference, isn't that big, and it felt bigger when we were smaller. But at the same time, I personally like Dinotopia. Don't feel like it was ever going to be a cultural phenomenon. I think it was really great though, and I think it rode on that dinosaur craze, But if you have a child and you read to them, and I hope you do if you have one, anyone in the chat, pick up a Dinotopia book. They will most likely love it. D says, like, just I used to be James Fernandez. Okay, so yeah, I didn't know if there was a reason. I didn't want to like out you. You know what I mean? If you were like, I don't want to use my real name, but yeah. Okay, D's Star Wars fans. That's what I'm gonna think every time I see you. Nolan Ryan says, "What up, Dale? Bespin in the house too. Nothing but aces in this chat." I know, Bespin and Bearded. That's rad. What a day. So Rob says, how's it going, Rob? Star Trek and Star Wars, like gin and whiskey. I love both, just not at the same time. Yeah, I would agree with that. It's like, I mean, it's kind of weird. Like the way I come at Star Trek is so angular almost. I love the Twilight Zone, and I'm like not like an aficionado or anything like that, but I watch the Twilight Zone. Whenever there was a marathon growing up, always was all in on it. And I started showing them to my daughter, who's 6 years old, and she loves them. They're like the right amount of creepiness, but also like something that she's never seen before, so it's fascinating to her. But that era of writing and the way it was handled and the limited sets, though, there's just something really magical about it. And the original Star Trek has that. So that's why I kind of go back to it. It's almost like my Star Trek original rewatches are almost always connected to my Twilight Zone rewatches. It's like that era, that sort of 60s kind of vibe, you know? But as a kid, Star Trek The Next Generation was coming out, and I don't know if this is ever talked about as much anymore. People really remember. I left the back door open. I got a fly, but getting pensed. But anyways, as a kid, I was excited for The Next Generation to come out. They were advertising it, and as it was coming out, dude, all the adults were just jerks about it. That's not Star Trek. That's not Captain Kirk. Who is this bald dude? You know what I mean? They just hated it. They had big problems with it. And then the first season, I watched the whole thing. I enjoyed it as TV, and it was a good time. And it didn't change my world or anything. And I was, little baby hands. Anyways, it didn't change my world or anything, but it kept me entertained on a TV KCOP 13 out here, budget, if you will. And I loved it for what it was. And when it got into all the time travel stuff and everything like that, I was really into it because I loved Back to the Future. So that those things like intersected, and I really liked it. What was funny was, I think whenever I was highly critical of Star Wars or Star Trek, I'm sorry, I should say Star Trek, it was always that I was afraid the weaker, cheaper elements of Star Trek would permeate into Star Wars. Then when you had Star Wars fans in the 90s, I hate to say it, but they were just cool. You know what I mean? They were all in bands, skaters, artists, kitsch lovers, and it was just all in all, when you found one of your own, they were pretty rad. And then you started to have the Star Trek book club guys coming into the Star Wars realm as Star Trek started to teeter off. And then I felt like that was bad for Star Trek Star Wars relations. Oh, side note, this is a weird one. I and this probably isn't a popular thing to say. I'm not a fan of the Red Letter Media's analysis of Star Wars. I don't think it's fun. I think that I don't like their perspective on it. But I love their show where they just look at like old bad videos and best of the worst. Such a good YouTube show, and I love it. And oftentimes when I can't go to sleep, I will put that on, even if I've seen it before, and I'll go to sleep to it. This morning, I had a dream. Penny, you're fired. This morning, I had a dream. I was in this neighborhood. I drove into this neighborhood, and I didn't know anybody. And I lost my car. I was like, where did I park my car? I don't have any clue. And then I walked up, and it was their house, and they all lived together, but they all lived like in the Mr. Plinkett, like dirty mattress on the floor kind of thing. And they're like, you could just hang out here. And then they're like, we have a lot of Star Wars toys. You could have them. They're trash to us. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm not that interested either. but thanks, you know. I was like looking at like, maybe my kids will want some of this in my dream. But then the dream goes into, hey, you might think this is weird, but we're going to have a tickle party. And I was like, I'm good. And then they started trying to tickle me. That happened. I mean, in my dream. That was weird. And then I woke up. The tickle party got too weird and too intense, and it woke me up. But anyways, the reason why I mentioned that is that I like how that dude brings everything back to Star Trek, because I do that about Star Wars and Nirvana Queen constantly. I get it. Pine nuts, right? Isn't it good? It's like I want him to be a great Star Wars character just so I could say I'm a pine nut. Hey, it's Ant-Man. How's it going, dude? Thrawn says, would rather see Lexi Alexander, Punisher, WZ handle a Star Wars film over Patty, honestly. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not that familiar, but I kind of want to see everybody who has a notable footprint in film and style. I want to see what they do with it, because at this point you have what you love. I have everything that I love with Star Wars. If I get a bunch more, awesome. But if I don't, then I will be fine with what I got. And so I'm down for them to experiment and try to grow Star Wars. But I will say, and Bearded Trio would probably agree with me, I would like to see these filmmakers growing more what Lucas and Spielberg started overall, you know? And before I forget, because I am just doing whatever I want, like always, Indiana Jones. There was been so many rumors that the filming was going to be delayed by 3 months. And we have a photo today of Harrison Ford with his arm in a sling walking around. And what's he doing? There's Penny. There is Penny. Hi, say hi, Penny. We have walking around with his arm in a sling. He's got his mask on, and he's going to probably live it up in the city. He didn't leave the country. He's still out there. So if you ask me, the whole not filming for 3 months thing, that doesn't make a lot of sense. They can film around a dude in a sling. And Mangold said that they were still filming. So I'm not sure if I buy it. Are you mocking me? Are you mocking me, little girl? Don't call me Baby Jason.
You're Baby Jason.
You can't call me Baby Jason in front of my Star Wars friends.
Well, you're Baby Jason.
But yeah, in terms of like directors and stuff like that, I would love to see them continue though to push forward. Like I want that Rian Johnson trilogy. I believe it will actually happen. I just don't know when it will happen, honestly. And surprised they announced it as early as they did. I think they announced it when they did more as a faith in that film and that they were happy with it. And whenever you hear rumors about how unhappy Disney was with Rian Johnson, you know it's bullshit based off of the fact that they literally announced a trilogy with him, at that point. Penny, did you like Bad Batch last night? Okay, wait, we can't see you though. Yeah, you liked it? It was good? Okay. That's one 6-year-old vote.
I think Baby Jason likes it too.
Oh, they can't hear you unless you're like up in the mic. Probably. Who knows? Who knows with this wacky internet stuff? Hello, Star Wars fans. How are we all today? We're doing good, Neil. It sounds like everybody's ready for the weekend. It's going to be a good time. And Santa's always coming in with fantastic, positive comments. Ant-Man says, the new episode of Bad Batch was great. I thought they were on Naboo for a minute. Same. Especially with those kind of statues that kind of reminded me of the Coruscant statues a little bit. Cool looking planet. Nice story, and I'm hooked waiting for the next one. Like how not only they played space chess, but it was part of the bigger story and not just a prop. Yeah, I agree with that too. I think that that's kind of when and this is like armchairing a movie that's already come out years ago now, so it's not even fair. But I always thought in Phantom Menace and The Force Awakens, when I knew that they were doing the chess stuff in that movie, I was hoping it wasn't going to be on the Falcon at first. I was hoping that it was going to be in the Maz Kanata place where they actually start to have like a conversation, and it was going to go in that way, and it was going to be part of those going ons. But at the same time, it's a good throwback. So, like a lot. How did you lot? Yeah. Hopefully everybody's sharing it. Loki has been rad, says Nolan. Didn't know Monobite hang out in here too. What up, Jeremy? Yeah, I don't know if he's in here today. He's been in here the last couple of days though. I started a bit late today.
Baby Jason.
I stayed up late making that ridiculous intro to the show, which is just silly with George Lucas saying it's not about spaceships. But greetings from the bearded trio, man. Got it. And your angle was such a good idea. I mean, like that is everything that I want to talk about. Those three guys. So if she's Phasma, they would tell her to retcon the Phasma book. That's true. I think it was just a fun quip, John, but way different than changing minor details. Yeah, no, that would infuriate people if they took it that way. I mean, especially when it's like a more recent publication. Like I understand like when a book's been out of print for like years and they go, well, nobody liked it, nobody cared, we're gonna just throw this one out. And that may happen. I mean, with this current canon, it could at some point. Some of it, I mean. No way Omega goes up to be Phasma. Can't see how that could possibly work. They got the same hair stylist, that's all. It was for lulz, yeah. Ian says, Penny, if you want to talk about Star Wars, you are more than welcome. But you want to fight, huh?
Baby Jason.
You want to throw down?
Baby Jason doesn't know how to fight.
Yeah, I don't know how to fight. But
Yeah, Baby Jason.
yeah. So it was to go back to the Harrison Ford thing though. With that hand, it's not that bad. I mean, and when I say it's not that bad, I don't mean it's not serious. I don't mean he might not have surgery or any of that stuff. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the dude could probably totally do his close-up shots. They could CGI the cast off, all kinds of things. And as somebody else has mentioned, and I mentioned on the show yesterday, Frank Marshall said it was business as usual as well. So I wouldn't be surprised. There's always a chance he's on some rock and painkillers, and it might not make delivering lines and memorizing them the easiest thing. That is possible. At the same time, Harrison Ford knows how to party, dude. RLM's analysis on Star Wars does suck. It's absolute trash. Yeah, I do think they're funny. I actually like think they are funny. And I like what they say, like the reaction to it does make me laugh. Like if we were friends and they were just like busting my balls, I would still like them, you know? It would be funny. The problem that exists, and it's not even necessarily their fault, is that people take what they say as if it's this like biblical, kind of film scholarship on that front. And those dudes do drop some like serious, like good script writing knowledge at times. They really do. They know what they're talking about. The difference is there's an exception to rules, and that's where I see a movie like The Phantom Menace, which is in a lot of ways horrible at times, is in a lot of ways horrible for if you were trying to make a standard film. But I just don't think it's what he was going for. And I think that you'll have like things taken out of context, or you'll have like PR moments used as if they're like serious. And it's just like, George Lucas, that guy doesn't want to talk. He's not a talker. If you were, I think, in real life with him, he probably wouldn't say very much. But when he has a camera following him around and he's having to perform, it definitely brought them into some corners with Lucas analysis. And that's what makes me think that a lot of the analysis of Lucas is oftentimes wrong. It's like literally the belief in reality TV that makes people analyze Lucas incorrectly. It's what makes John Knoll sound like he didn't tell Lucas when he was crazy, when I know for a fact that he did, you know? But Shane, do you want Grogu to appear in the inevitable episode 10, 11, and 12 trilogy? You know, like I wonder about Grogu. Like, he is an adorable baby. Who hates an adorable baby? No one. Is an adorable baby a character, though? I would say no. If so, you every time a sitcom introduced the adorable baby to save failing ratings in the 80s, the show would have continued once the child wasn't an adorable baby anymore. So Star Wars has the hurdle, I think, of making a good character that Grogu grows into. That's a weird Grogu grows into. Yeah. And if they don't, then it's going to retroactively be looked at like a stunt. It'll become annoying. And too much of baby Grogu as a baby will become annoying and formulaic. So, where do you take it? On one hand, we don't know how Luke Skywalker will handle his temple. Will Ahsoka join him at some point? She's dead by episode 9, we assume, since we hear her voice. And she doesn't help. How does she die? Does she become Grogu's master? If you're Dave Filoni and you had a hand in creating both of those characters with George Lucas and Jon Favreau, do you make that connection between those two? Do you take your two best, biggest original characters and put them together to start to form your super version of Star Wars? I think you do. So, while Rebels may play a big part in the Ahsoka arc, I have to think ultimately Ahsoka needs to be brought back into the Jedi fold. She rejected it when it was a corrupt, failing order on the verge of extinction, right? But what does where do you, does that it? She's then just this Ronin, just going around David Carradine. Well, maybe the David Carradine, not the way to take it. I don't think she wants to take a belt into the closet. That said, walking around doing Jedi stuff while not a Jedi. I mean, that's a thing. But I have a feeling if I were Filoni and I had a hand in creating Ahsoka and Grogu, and I've already given Grogu to Luke, I have a feeling that she will become a part of Luke's Jedi Order, and then she will become a Jedi Master quickly to help him. And obviously, they will have to expedite that process more than usual, considering the Jedi extermination that just happened in the last generation, and will happen again, unfortunately. But with that said, that's my prediction of where it ultimately goes. And I think it's the best way for it to go. Like, it's the best way to close out the whole era of those characters when that time comes, in my opinion. Hey, Carl, how's it going? Do you disagree with having time travel in Star Wars? I agree, by the way, but not sure why. Yeah, I disagree. And I love time travel. I'm a huge Back to the Future fan. I completely was consumed by it when I was in the Back to the Future fan club, and it would just I couldn't get enough. I couldn't stop thinking about the paradoxes and stuff like that. But it's fun in Star Trek when it was used in the right moments. At the same time, it does feel like it does feel like things start to not matter. It starts to feel like you can just simply trick your way through certain things. Company makes a huge mistake. New Disney CEO sucks or whatever. Okay, well, we're gonna undo it by giving Chewbacca the time device. Falls into a weird place. There's been rumors, that's involved with Indy. I don't think those are true, but I'm not even sure if I like it there. I'm more okay with it there in terms of Indiana Jones. I mean, once you have the Ark and Sankara stones and the Holy Grail and interdimensional beings, what's time travel at that point? Maybe just the next stage, honestly. But yeah, I don't think it just would feel like you would be taking characters with a certain aesthetic and vibe and then forcing them into these other places. What I'm hoping, like the time travel-esque moments of Rebels and Ezra, I'm hoping that it, like those gates and how they end up functioning, I hope it's almost like in essence how the Jedi see the future and the past, old friends long gone, that kind of stuff. I'm hoping it ends up just sort of going into that space. And I'm hoping that what you end up having are two people like Thrawn and Ezra who are seeing two potential futures, and they have a really good knowledge of it, but they don't necessarily understand it. And that in a strange way, they sort of become like these oracles for the good guys and the bad guys. Like, Thrawn's going to be like, this happens, the Jedi do rise again, but we will defeat them, and here's how it's going to happen. And then that ends up being like what helps Palpatine know to go after Ben for something like that. Like, even though that's a very obvious go after Ben, but you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm hoping that it works in that way and not just like, whoa, I'm in the Phantom Menace. What are these guys saying? Roger, Roger. Whoa, rocket pad. You know, it would get really it just wouldn't work for me. Plus, I want to move forward and not just continually retread the past. And if we're going to retread the past, I want it to be from a unique perspective. That's not time travel. But that's just, at the same time, if they do it and it works, I love time travel. I mean, and there's different ways of doing it. I mean, Tenet is, I don't know. Do I love Tenet, you guys? You tell me how I feel about Tenet, because I still don't know. But yeah. So, okay. Frank Marshall, Bearded Trio says, Frank Marshall tweeted, business as usual for Indy. Yes. Yeah, I covered that one yesterday as well. And that's what makes me think this whole 3 months thing is a game of Ford is likely going to be in a sling for 3 months or injured for 3 months, but not necessarily out, because he's out walking around. I mean, if he's out walking around for leisure, I think he should be back. Look at that cheese. Abdul says, I'd be okay to Shane. I'd be okay with Grogu in the movies if they use him well and he makes sense for the story. Yeah. And that's exactly, it's like there's a way to do it tastefully. It's like kind of weird on one hand too, though, because it's like when you make a new Yoda, if there's not like a new spin on it, then it just becomes like, oh, here's this generation's Yoda and this generation's Chewbacca, and here's the new R2, and there's the new 3PO. And when it goes that way to an extent, we do get like, this feels artificial. This starts to feel derivative. So they almost, I feel like, should take it where if they don't show us young Yoda anytime soon, and by all means, what they're doing in the High Republic is not young Yoda. I mean, he's still, 600 years old or something. So with that in mind, if they take that kind of power and that pursuit of knowledge and let us see like where it goes. And I don't want like the Groot idea, like it's funny with Groot, like when Groot becomes a petulant teenager, it's done well, and I like it. But doing that with Yoda is kind of lame. It wouldn't really be. It would be like Muppet Babies of Star Wars almost at that point. But it would be interesting to see the kinds of things that like Yoda must have went through. Because in my head canon, Yoda wasn't always this great guy. He was never like a huge jerk, but somebody with that amount of power, there has to have been. I mean, think about your life. Was there ever an era of your life you're not proud of where you were overly arrogant or aggressive or just not chill or condescending, whatever it happens to be, whatever your personality weaknesses are? Yoda has them too. And Yoda, we know, even as an old man, falls to his hubris in the end. It's what helps take down the Jedi Order. So it would make sense in Yoda's backstory that he is very arrogant at some point. before being humbled. And out of an 800 years of life, I mean, that's like more than 8 lifetimes, you know? And so that's where I'm like weird on it. Like I would almost rather just know about Yoda's early years. But on the other hand, taking Grogu into the future could be cool, especially if they like design him and if he grows not into looking exactly like Yoda. And I hear a lot of times people ask me, is Grogu a clone of Yoda? And I would say based off of the empirical evidence, you can't say no. But I do think that it's not the case because he was in the Jedi Temple before and all that stuff. And so they would have to be like, oh, the Yoda species were having a problem procreating, or there was only Yoda and Yaddle and they couldn't knock boots because they were Jedi. So they had to clone him. You know, they'd have to do something very convoluted, like being a clone of Palpatine's never mind. But anyways, yeah, it's I'm curious to see where all of this goes, and if it's satisfying at the end of the day. That's what matters. Hey, Josiah, man, me and Josiah go way back to the shack. But I just jumped all the way down in the chat again. Penny nodding about liking Star Wars is Star Wars. George would approve. Yeah, my kids are like the best barometer for keeping perspective, you know? Like when Rise of Skywalker came out, and there were times when I was like, wow, man, this is like my least favorite Star Wars movie ever, you know? And I was just like, man, I don't know. And they're like right there loving it. And then asking me, what do you want to do today? I don't know. Can we go to Disneyland? Not today. Can we go to see Star Wars again? And it's like hard to say no. So we would go do it. Saw it a good, I want to say 6 times in the theater with them. Saw more times than that with friends. So once again, though, it's like when you hit a point where you're seeing a movie in the theater more than 10 times, how can it satisfy you? You know what I mean? It's not fair to any film. But if you take the job, you know what you're in for. J.J. Abrams. Neil says, I disagree. I can't see any way Rian Johnson gets to do more Star Wars, and frankly, I don't want him to. I don't know, man. They really love him. They really do. And regardless of PR, the movie performed. And regardless of the fake internet stories, the corporate culture was happy with him. At the same, and the only thing that I would think would be an issue is when he goes to make his movie, are they going to be cool about him doing whatever he wants to do? Are they going to, start to tie his hands, if you will? Are they going to be looking for woke moments and being like, well, this might be something, this might be bad? Because it's like, in my opinion, the wokest stuff in the movie wasn't Holdo. It was the casino sequence. And honestly, I think it was fair. I think the criticisms of those sequences are fair, but at the same time, it's the kind of lesson that Star Wars is all about. It is always about how are people sort of taken advantage of in the context of war. And if what does Qui-Gon say? If you gamble, eventually you'll lose. It's playing on that same moment again, So that stuff I liked. I thought that was good. I think passing that stuff on, I feel like was doing the same function as the Phantom Menace. And I think it was maybe the most George Lucas thing that anybody did in a Star Wars movie in the newest era. And I think it's funny that it is the most hated, and that you have fake stories that Lucas is coming back in August with our new president. What's up? Hey, Sketch. Look at this sketchy dude. Dell says, hey, what's up, Josiah dude? Might be someone you know, Jason. He has the same last name. He's my brother. No, just kidding. We are not related as far as I know. I wonder, are we related? You are definitely the good ward. If there's a good ward, it's you. Dale says, just ask a trip. Everybody say hi to everybody today. I like it though. I like that everybody likes each other here. Josh says, I don't think that episode 10 through 12 would be enough in the future to have Grogu. They should make a Grogu series or movies like hundreds of years in the future. I want to see badass Jedi Master Grogu. Yeah. I don't think that they're going to kill Grogu in the purge, if you will, from Kylo. I think they'll come up with some reason that he wasn't there. Heck, I mean, is Luke going to have failings in his order like the original Jedi did? Does he right those wrongs? Is an important question to ask, because he still looks up to those men a lot. You don't think so? Wait. You don't think he's gonna right the wrongs of the past, Luke Skywalker?
Mhm.
Because where I'm going with this is that if Ahsoka was to become a Jedi in his order, she would clearly be fighting for the opposite. But if she trains Grogu, he might get her penchant for leaving when things aren't right. Throwing that out there. It seems fair, right, Penny? Don't touch the mic. You can talk into the mic. You want to talk into the mic? Want to say hi to everybody?
No.
All right.
No.
So, okay. Richie says, Jason, what are some of the craziest behind-the-scenes stories you've heard of the prequels? You mentioned recently, you said Lucas thought he dropped the ball on Attack of the Clones. Any other interesting stories? Yeah, that was one of the things, is that I know after Attack of the Clones, he felt like in that instance, he did not make the movie that he hoped to make. It did not come together in a way that he wanted it to. The other one I talked about was when Natalie Portman was being a pain in the desert out there in Tunisia. They threatened to get Keira Knightley if she wasn't interested in being in the film, and that was a contentious moment. Obviously, trying to think of what else, because I mean, at the time in the prequel, range of things, I was involved in community side of things, but I wasn't also like a scooper, if you will. But I did release the first book, the first image of Padme dead, because I got the book strangely super early of one of those kids books, and it had Padme dead in a kid's book, which was very, very strange and pretty interesting. But it's like, yeah, at the same time, like I'm trying to think about prequel stuff, because that's a great question though, and I'm gonna put it in my old cooker, and when stuff comes to me, I will make sure I'll write it down and bring it up on the show, because I know so much about those films, it's ridiculous. But sorry, I was kind of dropped the ball on that question. Neil, do we know for a fact Ahsoka has passed by episode 9? Could she have been meditating with the Force through some other location during those events? I would say that we don't know, because until somebody dies on screen and really dies on screen, they're not dead. At the same time, just about everybody who showed up in that sequence was likely dead. I mean, it's kind of weird if we end up where we have a situation where everything was okay and she wasn't involved. It's like everybody who gets mad at Luke for being a quitter. Well, that would make Ahsoka even worse, because she literally never showed up to the fight until the very end to say, "You get him, Tiger." It's like, that's not very much. But they could come up with a reason. They could have her, in some prison or something, space jail. She could be trapped in the world between worlds, or whatever that was called. All that stuff. There's ways of taking it. But I do think that that 30 years, 35-year period is a lot of story time. And it's enough for Ahsoka's character to be completely realized. And does she need to go on beyond that saga when that saga starts the new beginning of everything, so to speak, is supposed to anyway? But it doesn't have to go that way. And that was a question more than a statement. Probably came off more as a statement. So Josiah says, dude, I so miss pre-2015 and shortly thereafter. I'm always going to cherish listening and reading moments on your website and podcast. Going to keep listening and reading, but the community was so great. It was a lot better. That is for sure. I mean, it was one of those just rare, really, really good times, and like having this holistic view of it, I could see how what became shitty was always there. And I could see how what became shitty simply needed its time to work its way through things and to sort of grow and fester. But the thing I think we have to remember is the Star Wars community is whatever we make of it. And it's whatever we give attention to and don't that ends up being what it is. So while that time was certainly nice, it's kind of up to us to make it better. And I'll admit that there were times when the people who were making it terrible, people came to me and were like, what are you going to do about it? Kind of. And then I was like, this is up to me. What a mistake. It was almost like getting goaded into the nerd fight after school, if you will. And I should have taken the Luke Skywalker route, just thrown down my saber and said, hey, just don't listen to him. But I've learned my lesson on that front. And my new perspective, if you will, my new take on fandom is, like I said, it's whatever we make of it. And for what it's worth right now today in this chat, it feels a lot like good 2015. So that I'm pretty proud of our last couple of weeks together. Alexandros, how's it going, dude? No time travel in a Star Wars, please. Yes, I'm with you there. I really am. Nolan says, got a dip early, getting wings and beer. Enjoy the weekend, gang. See you next week. Sounds good, Nolan. Man, I want wings and beer. I don't need it, but I want it. Mike Papas, how's it going, dude? Papas always comes in to say hi at least, which is totally appreciated. Papa, I have to get Papas on the show one of these days. Papa's something about Papa's energy that always just peps me up. D says, my money says Grogu will turn up in the new 3PO R2 show announced back before Mando aired. They are supposedly on adventures with a new hero. Interesting. And that show, I don't know anything about that show. And so I always wonder, what is that going to be? Is this show, is it trash, so to speak? Is it just filler? Is it like a kid's show that's not really meant for everyone? Or is it going to be like straight up, here's a C-3PO series, R2 3PO series with a new hero? Like, that's significant. Because I hope so. I'll take it. And if it ends up being just a 3PO show and my kids like it, that's cool too, I guess. Cool for them. But Dell says, what about Grogu being a product of asexual reproduction? Maybe Pelimoto was giving us hints that Yoda's species just buds like a plant or worms. Yeah, I mean, that's possible. I mean, I know this is going to sound weird, but I always imagined they hatched from an egg. So maybe they just lay the egg and sit on it, fertilize it themselves that way. You know what I mean? But hey, everybody, loving the show. Thanks, Permit. How's it going, dude? Pemberfoot. I mean, I want to have Pember on to talk about UFOs and Star Wars as soon as he can, because I think it would be fun. I am curious about what the question of what does disclosure mean for Star Wars and science fiction, and what does it mean for how we start to interpret our galaxy, and how does it change the dream? Because it could, or has it always been there? If the thing divides us or buds. Or maybe they're like gremlins. Just get Yoda wet, you get more. Never mind, I didn't say that. Qui-Gon says to Neil, Filoni said that hearing Ahsoka doesn't necessarily mean she's dead. Yeah, and I think though at the same time that is like the commitment to, or the non-committal answer to not confirming she's dead, because they probably haven't decided yet, and including her, it was because about who she is and the size of the character, and it did seem to break this rule to some extent, or this theme that they had going on. But it's like, if they're not decided, they don't know how it ends, then there you go. And if you do a bunch of series with her, like I said, there's 30 years of Ahsoka stories to tell before that movie, or something like that, right? How old is Kylo? Can never keep the ages straight. True, Qui-Gon. Kenneth says, what are your thoughts on the possibility of a Dr. Aphra movie? She's a super popular character, but I am shocked Disney is not using her for visual media, film, TV. Yeah, I mean, same, and I gotta say, I was making fun of a site that fakes things a lot. And then I had talked about the Dr. Aphra thing, and people are like, whoa, man, you're talking crap on Jeremy. And I was like, did Jeremy talk about that? Oh, I forgot. I didn't know. But and that wasn't what I was doing. It was more on the people who take something that's popular that they can turn into clickbait and extrapolate upon. That was why I used that example before, for the record. I just didn't want him thinking I was being mean to him. That said, I think it's good. I think that maybe when you're making an Indiana Jones movie, you don't need to do that. But maybe at some point, she will satiate that Lucasfilm fan desire for space archaeologists, which she is sort of the Indiana Jones of Star Wars in a lot of ways, or at times. Also kind of like part heist thief kind of thing going on. And I would be surprised if they never used that, never took that anywhere more. I know that the people at Lucasfilm would totally love to. They love that character internally. I think that they will. I also think that there's a lot to be said about letting the comics gestate and grow that character more. Does that make sense? Like, the more that they give to it. Really quickly. See you later, Bearded. Bearded says, gotta make like a tree and get out of here. Thank you for this. Really enjoyed it. Have a great weekend, everyone. Rob. Thanks, dude. It was great to see you here. I really appreciate you stopping in. Come by anytime. Always happy to. If you ever want to be on the show, by all means, please. If you're still listening to this, I'll send you a DM. Kenneth says, what are your thoughts on the possibility? Yeah, so we talked about that one. And I still think that's really important. Do you remember Dr. Aphra from the comic books that we looked at? No? Okay. We'll have to read those ones again, see what you think. And not just because you're a girl. I don't do that to you, do I? Do I ever go like, oh, this is a girl thing, you're going to like it? Okay, good. Because
We're finally almost done.
Yeah, I'm almost done, baby.
Yay.
Are you tired of waiting for me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I will speed it up. Wookie Talk says frog eggs. Penny, do you think Baby Yoda was hatched from an egg, or do you think he was in his mommy's tummy?
Not even sure. It doesn't seem like it would be hatched from an egg.
No?
It doesn't seem like it.
So you think he was in Yaddle's tummy?
Maybe.
Turtles.
Swimming.
Okay, I'll take you swimming in 5 minutes. I think it's far from likely that we get a Dr. Aphra action series on Disney Plus rather than getting. Yeah, I think that she would be better served on Disney Plus, and would give it time to grow it. She also could be a character who it might be really good to introduce in something else and then grow it from there. Just like it would be rad if a Dr. Aphra series went in tonight. It started just going off tonight, right? That would be great. But her showing up in the I mean, obviously she won't, but like the Cassian series, and then you get introduced to her, and people go, "Oh, that character's cool," and then you have these two kind of this wave of comic book fans and live action TV fans coming together. So Aphra would make for a good Disney Plus series. Totally agree. Theron says, "Papa's you beautiful SOB." Isn't he though?
Daddy,
Yeah.
do you think it seemed like the sun just went low from brightness and then it went high right now from the brightness?
Are you saying that the Earth isn't flat?
The Earth is round.
No, the Earth is flat.
Now it's round.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's round.
All right.
Then how would the planet supposed to go around it? It just couldn't be a flat square.
Stickman says, maybe Filoni is going to recontextualize Jedi life, death, spirit through Ahsoka. Ahsoka finds a new path. Yeah, I mean, and they could do it. Like with so much time, you know, it's completely possible. I can totally see that happening. And then Jesse, Mr. Acosta says she knows all. Penny or Ahsoka? Penny, do you know all? No? Okay. But I think we are going to wrap today up a little bit earlier than I anticipated. But sorry, I'm going to take you swimming, all right? I'm going to take you swimming, I promise. Today, she did not keep herself entertained. Jesse says, Penny. Want to say hi to Jesse?
Meow. Meow.
Meow?
Meow.
Are you a cat person?
Meow.
In Star Wars, they were the cat people were slavers, and Anakin beat them up. Yeah. So, anyways, okay, I'm gonna say goodbye to everybody, and then we will go swimming. So I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna try to get one in over the weekend if everybody's free, just hanging out, having 4th of July beers or whatever. Maybe we could do a Star Wars hangout. I think I'm going to be kidless for a day or two, so there we go. And that would definitely free up the possibility. So I'm going to try and do that.
I like you, Daddy.
I know it's because I'm poop, Penny. I'm poop. What do you call it? I'm gonna try. If you want to support the channel, you can become a channel member. Send in your questions if you can't make the show, and I will try to get to it when I can on the show. Channel members, I will always make sure to answer whatever you want to talk about and have a conversation about that you guys want to hear. And you can follow the show on YouTube, which is where you can become a channel member. Also, we're on Stitch. The years of podcasting will do that to you. It really, really, truly will. But you can see us on Facebook, and we are on the streaming platforms. So anyways, I hope everybody has a really good weekend. If I don't get to see you, and I could see us like going to Mortis to become the sister there. Yeah, that's totally always been on the table, and she was resurrected, right, by them. So maybe there's something to that. And Pemberfoot says, I think Aphra would make a great character to float between the different series. Yeah, and I think so too. And she could and then it would culminate in her having her own thing. It'd almost be like the Avengers format, but in the TV series stuff. But make sure you like the videos and all that kind of stuff. And we'll try to do these daily, every day that we can. And I think we just completed 3 weeks in a row of at least one stream a day. So it's been a good time. And I'm really enjoying this in our conversations. And when you have your free mental time, think about what you want to talk about, and send it in, and we will talk about it. You want to say bye to everybody, Penny? That will do it. Oh, and wait, am I allowed to do this? Will it let me do it? I will do the show opener again because it is so dumb.
It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.
did you have to do the one thing? The one thing.